Hello and welcome to another part of our tutorial of Kotlin, basic Kotlin tutorials. Today we'll look into how to create a more complex application, make it more interesting, start getting our hands dirty, and make some nice interaction with the user. Okay, so first of all, if you remember from the last part, we defined variables up here and inside the main function the execution of the app. Maybe you will ask yourself, why did I do it this way? You have to understand that by convention, okay, when we develop an app, we tend to define the variables and the values up here in the first lines of our application, in the header. And then in the body down here, we tend to put the rest of the code, the functions, the execution. If you remember in assembly, we always define or we always move the values to the registers at the beginning, and then later on we start working on the algorithm, of the things, of the operations that we wanted these variables to handle. Okay, so what we will do today is create our first application with our first interesting application, and in specific we will create a calculator. Okay, so what we'll do, it's combine some small concepts that we will look through this part of the tutorial, and we'll build up one after the other. Okay, so we'll do it by parts. Okay, so the first thing we will do is clean this thing up and take it out and put here a title that will say hello to our magic calculator. Okay, great, nice. So if we execute this, we'll see down here in the console only the text hello to our magic calculator, and that's it, nothing else. Okay, great. So let's start by creating only, sorry, it's calculator wrongly, I wrote it wrong, and you can see it even tries to fix it, so it's so great, nice. Okay, so what will be our first step? We'll create a very simple sum and subtract calculator. We'll show both results for two different values. Okay, for two different for two variables. Okay? When we want to make a calculator or work on a calculator, make arithmetic operations, we have to ask always for two different numbers. Okay, in this case we'll ask the user two different numbers. So to do that, we have to use the readline function we used before and save that info in different variables up here. We will erase also these ones. I will create two variables. The one, it's going to be var number 1, and we're going to give it a 0 value at the beginning. We're going to define it with a 0, and then we're going to give it a num2, with also value 0, because we're going to use two numbers. Great. So now we're going to ask him through a println, enter the first number. So he will enter the first number, and we will read it and save it in num1, okay, equals readline. Now, there is an error, okay? We are starting with our problems. And what is the first problem we are encountering? The readline function, if you remember, and even it tells me down here, returns or gives us a string, a text, okay? And the number is defined as an int, so I cannot really try to store in an int, in a variable that is defined as a number, non-decimal number, we cannot store as text because it's a type mismatch. There is a mismatch, see? It doesn't really, it's not the same. Int and string are not the same. So what is the solution? Well, he offers us, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's see if now he offers us that. No, it's not offering. there is an option to transform it to something. It's a function that belongs, yes, to the read line. Okay, we can do two things. We either can do it this, but let's do it in a simple way. We will define a value that will be the number in one in text, and we read it from a read line. Okay, and then that num1 text will turn it into a num1 int and a number. So num1 will be equal to num1 text point to int. That means that function here, yes, that I'm calling through the point, it turns the number, this text into a number. Yeah, this function is responsible of turning this into a number. Now it's telling me that this is, for now, just put like a double thing, and that's it. This is many times is necessary because it does not, it doesn't really trust us that the value in there will be will exist. So it forces us to do it like that. Don't worry. The following step will be do the same thing, but with the second number. And again, we'll do exactly the same thing as here. We copy, we paste, connect number 2 text, and number 2 here. Nice. So now we have the two numbers. So we can print, for example, the numbers you entered are. So here we're going to put, for example, first num1 and num2. Okay, so in this point now, if we execute, okay, we'll see that the app asks us for the first number here, and we're going to write 7, a second number 10, and it will tell me that the numbers you entered are 7 and 10. Perfect. Now we'll proceed with making the operations, the adding and subtracting. So completely different from assembly. Now we can use as much variables as we want. So let's define a value that is the sum equals to number 1 plus number 2. Okay, and let's make value subtract equals number 1 plus number 2. And let's print them both. Let's do the following thing, and let's do this. Numbers are the number summing let's do this. So number 1 plus number 2 equals sum. And then in another line down here, number 1 minus number 2 equals sub. If we execute this, we will get the following things. 10 plus 20, or 10 and 20. Well, this is a small, yeah. Well, there is a mistake in the code. It's because here, if you see, I forgot to put them, I just copied without changing the sign here. So let's do it again. So now let's put like 15 and 100. So 15 plus 100 is 115. 15 minus 100 is minus 85, and it's the right result. And there we got the first steps of our calculator. So let's make a quick review. We read the line. Because the line is always that when it's read, it's always a text. We had to transform it to an int, to a number. The same thing here. We repeated the same process down here, and we transform it to a number and put it in number 1 and number 2. Then we printed in the screen the numbers that we just read. We did the operations, saved them in another values that cannot be changed, and we printed here showing him the resulting operations. Later in the following parts, we'll create more and more options like the division, the multiplication and division, and even we'll start giving the option to the user to choose different operations as he likes.